If you think you've heard every wild story from the Old West, think again. Today's tale will pull you straight into a challenge so dangerous, so unbelievable, that even the toughest ranchers refused to attempt it. But one man, he stepped forward, and what happened next changed more than just his fate. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, share this video, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support keeps these stories alive. Now, let's get started with this unbelievable journey. Night draped itself across the desert like a silent warning, heavy and unmoving. Colt Merrigan slowed his horse, feeling the weight of the wind pushing against the sand. Something was wrong. The world around him was too still, too watchful. And then shadows moved. 4 Apache riders appeared without a sound, circling him like shifting pieces of darkness. Their eyes were sharp, unreadable, and calm in a way that made Colt's pulse jump. He raised his hands slowly, not out of fear, but out of respect. "I'm just passing through," he said quietly, "looking for stray cattle. I mean no trouble." But in this land, words meant very little. The riders didn't respond, didn't even blink. Then an older warrior stepped forward, his face carved by years of battles, storms, and silence. His presence cut the tension instantly. He studied Colt with an expression that seemed to weigh heart and intent more than flesh and bone. "You travel alone. Why?" the elder asked, voice deep and steady. Colt held his gaze. "Work brings me here, nothing more." For a long moment, the elder said nothing, as if peeling back the layers of Colt's truth without needing another word. Colt knew he was being judged, not on actions, but on the energy he carried. Then from behind the warriors came a movement light as breath. A young Apache woman stepped forward, moonlight catching the black braids falling over her shoulders. Her name, Colt would soon learn, was Taya. She wasn't timid nor hostile. Her eyes held curiosity mixed with something sharper, something thoughtful. She stopped in front of Colt and pointed toward a fallen log behind him. 5 clay bottles sat on it, spaced evenly apart. Each bottle was painted with symbolic Apache markings, arrows, spirals, the sun's rising edge. Colt felt the shift in the air. This wasn't random. This was ritual. The elder spoke again. "If you strike all these bottles with your rifle, we will believe your path holds no harm. Miss even one and you will leave our land immediately." It wasn't a threat. It was law, old, unbending, sacred. Colt didn't feel anger or insult. He understood completely. Trust wasn't given in these lands. It was earned through the language of action. He stepped off his horse, lifted his rifle, brushed the dust from its side, and moved into position. The distance was long. The wind uneven. The bottles small, fragile, and spaced wide. A test meant to reveal something deeper than skill. For a moment, the desert stood breathless. Colt lined up his first shot. The echo of the rifle cracked through the stillness, and the first bottle shattered instantly. A ripple of surprise moved through the watching warriors, though none spoke. Colt shifted, took his second shot, another perfect hit. The third bottle exploded into dust. He felt the attention on him sharpen, especially from the younger warriors who had clearly expected him to fail early. Colt steadied his breath. These weren't shots for pride, they were shots for permission, for survival, for the right to stand here without being seen as an enemy. He fired again and the 4th bottle burst apart. Only one remained. The final bottle was different, painted with the mark of the rising sun. Taya's eyes were fixed on it, her expression unreadable, but Colt sensed that this bottle carried deeper meaning. Maybe it was hers, maybe it represented something sacred he couldn't know. Either way, he respected it. The wind shifted sharply, dragging sand across his boots, but he adjusted, inhaled, and pulled the trigger with steady hands. The bullet flew true. He felt the strike the instant he fired. But the bottle didn't break. It didn't fall. It simply trembled and stayed standing. A few of the young warriors smirked, their shoulders relaxing as if the outcome had always been obvious. But Colt walked forward, puzzled. He knew his shot had been perfect. He knew the bullet had landed dead center. The elder stepped forward, touched the bottle gently, and then turned to Colt with an expression that had changed entirely. "This bottle," he said, "is not made to break. It is fired stronger than the others. It symbolizes endurance, not destruction. You were not meant to shatter it, only to strike its heart without harming its spirit." Colt blinked, taken aback. "Then why?" The elder lifted a hand, stopping him. "You passed." The settlement fell into a rare hush. A few warriors lowered their gazes in respect. And Taya, she looked at Colt with something warm flickering behind her calm exterior, something like approval. Many men shoot to win, she said softly. You shot to understand. Colt didn't reply. He didn't need to. Sometimes silence spoke truer than any words. The elder invited him to stay the night as their guest. It was not hospitality, it was honor. As evening draped itself across the village, fires lit the center grounds. Children laughed, warriors murmured among themselves, and Colt found himself seated beside the elder, sharing food and listening more than he talked. He learned that Taya was more than the chief's daughter. She was a healer, a guide, and a woman known for questioning traditions others never dared to. She carried a strength that didn't need to be loud to be felt. Colt admired that quietly, respectfully. Later, when most of the camp had settled, Taya approached him with the calm confidence of someone who feared nothing, not even truth. Walk with me, she said. Colt followed her to a ridge overlooking miles of quiet desert. The moon washed everything in silver. The world looked softer, untouched. This land, she whispered, is my breath, and yet people want to choose my path for me. Her voice carried both defiance and longing. Colt understood instantly. I know what that feels like, he said. Living under others' expectations, trying to stay honest in a world that twists a man's life out of his hands. A small smile tugged at her lips. Trouble seems to follow you, Colt Merrigan. He chuckled. Maybe, but I don't go looking for it. Maybe trouble looks for you, she replied quietly. The desert wind stilled around them, as if time had paused to listen. Two souls from two different worlds stood under one sky, feeling, for a rare moment, completely seen. There was no romance, only understanding, and sometimes understanding is louder than love. But dawn was coming, and with it, a test far greater than clay bottles, a danger neither of them saw yet. A threat moving in the distance, like a storm waiting to strike. Morning crept over the desert as softly as a whispered warning. Colt Merrigan tightened the saddle straps, preparing to leave, but something in the air felt wrong. He sensed it before he understood it. The Apache village was unusually quiet. Warriors stood gathered near the edge of the camp, their attention fixed on a distant rising dust cloud. Taya hurried toward Colt, worry crossing her features. Riders, she said, but not ours, and not friendly. Colt didn't need more explanation. The dust pattern, the formation, the speed, it all pointed to one group. Rustlers, the same men who had been stealing cattle across the territory for months. The elder joined them, his expression grim. These men crossed our hunting grounds last night. They shot 2 of our scouts. Now they return. Colt felt the tension coil inside the people around him. The Apache was strong and capable, but these rustlers were reckless, heavily armed, and led by a man notorious for violence. Yet Riker, Colt knew him. He'd crossed paths with Riker before, and Riker never let go of a grudge. If Riker saw Colt here, with the Apache, it would be bloodshed without hesitation. Colt stepped forward. Let me talk to them, he said. They know me. The elder shook his head. They do not come to talk. Taya placed a hand on Colt's arm, her eyes searching his. You don't owe us this. Colt looked at her, then at the warriors preparing for battle. Maybe I don't, he said, but right now I want to. The riders appeared over the ridge, 8 of them, rifles ready, horses kicking up a trail of aggression behind them. Riker rode in front, tall, hard-faced, with a smirk that always spelled trouble. He spotted Colt instantly and barked a laugh. Well, well, look what the desert coughed up. Playing house with the Apache now, Merrigan. Colt stepped forward but kept his hands loose, non-threatening. Turn your men around, Riker. This land isn't yours. Riker grinned wide, cruel. It's mine if I want it to be. Everything out here is. He looked at Taya with a gaze that made Colt's jaw tighten. Heard the chief's daughter's a pretty prize around here. That one line changed the air. Apache warriors bristled, bows tightening, rifles lifting. Taya stood her ground, shoulders straight, defiance shining through. Colt took a step closer to Riker. One more word like that, he said quietly, and you won't finish this day standing. Riker laughed, but it cracked around the edges. He lifted his rifle slowly. You pointing guns for them now? Since when did Colt Merrigan fight someone else's battles? Colt didn't flinch. Since you started one that doesn't need to happen. Riker's grin died. He cocked his rifle. Then let's end it right. The shot came fast, but Colt was faster. He dove aside, fired once, and hit Riker's rifle clean out of his grip. Chaos erupted. The rustlers opened fire. The Apache answered with the precision of warriors defending their home. Dust, smoke, shouts, the pounding of hooves, everything crashed into everything else. Colt grabbed Taya and pulled her behind a rock outcrop as bullets sliced the air. "Stay low," he said, but Taya wasn't helpless. She grabbed her bow and loosed 2 arrows with the sharpness of years of training, hitting a rustler's arm and driving another off his horse. Colt moved to cover her, firing with intention, never wild, never careless. The elder fought beside his people, gidding, steady, strong despite his age. Then Colt saw something that made his blood freeze, Riker crawling toward his fallen rifle, eyes locked on Taya. Colt didn't think, he ran. Riker lifted the rifle, finger tightening on the trigger, but Colt crashed into him, sending both men rolling across the dirt. They fought hard, years of hostility exploding all at once. Riker swung wildly, caught Colt across the jaw, but Colt shoved him back and pinned him. Riker grabbed a knife from his boot and slashed upward, grazing Colt's side. Pain flashed, but Colt didn't stop. He struck Riker's wrist, sending the knife clattering away, then held him down with pure grit. "This ends now," Colt growled. Riker spat blood. "You think these savages care about you?" Colt's fist landed clean, ending the question permanently. The rustlers, seeing their leader subdued and their numbers falling, fled into the desert, leaving behind their dead and wounded. The battle slowed, then stopped. Silence washed over the camp like rain after fire. Colt pushed himself up, breath sharp, shirt torn, side bleeding lightly. Taya ran to him, her hands gentle but urgent as she checked his wound. "You could have been killed." Colt winced but managed a half smile. "Wouldn't be the first time." The elder walked toward them, staff in hand, pride etched across his face. "You protected our people," he said, "not as outsider or guest, but as ally." Shook his head. "I did what was right, nothing more." The elder placed the unbreakable bottle, the one Colt had struck the day before, into Colt's hand once again. "You earned this before," the elder said, "but today you understand it." Colt looked at the bottle, at the sun symbol painted across its surface. It didn't feel like a test anymore. It felt like truth. Taya stepped closer, her voice softer than before. "Your path doesn't end here, but know this, you leave with more than you came with." Colt tied the bottle to his saddle, then turned back to Taya. Words hovered between them, words neither spoke. What lived between them wasn't romance, but something rarer, respect, connection, a moment that would stay alive long after they parted. Taya placed her carved wooden bead bracelet into his palm. "A reminder," she said, "of what you chose to stand for." Colt closed his fingers around it. "I won't forget." He mounted his horse as the tribe gathered behind him, watching, acknowledging. The elder lifted a hand. Taya stood beside him, eyes steady, no regret, only meaning. Colt looked back one last time, the desert wind carrying memories he knew would never fade. Then he rode forward into the open land, the rising sun at his back, the unbreakable bottle knocking softly against his saddle, as if reminding him of the path he'd proven himself worthy to walk. And that was the day the desert didn't just test Colt Merrigan. It changed him. Forever.